to give a history of the digital audio networking culminating in AES67, what we did to develop the standard. And I've done like 90-minute presentations on the history of audio networking, and I have 30 minutes here, so there's going to be some stuff that's skipped. But I'm going to start at 1938, which is when Alec Reeves invented digital audio, and he did it for a telephone system. And the problem he was trying to solve was that long-distance calls over analog lines didn't sound very good, but the telegraph still worked over long distance. So he's like, what if I can encode a voice into the same kind of Morse code stuff? And he patented in 1938, and it was totally impractical. But you're allowed to patent stuff that doesn't work. You're allowed to patent stuff that's impossible. There's many patents for perpetual motion machines, but this is where it began. Now I'm going to skip a whole bunch of stuff. We have digital telephones, and we're skipping ahead to 1996. And this is when we started trying to use data networks to transmit audio. And so there's RFC, those from the IETF, which is the Internet Engineering Task Force. And there had been a lot of experiments with sending voice over the internet and over IP networks, and this kind of culminated in standardizing this real-time transport protocol in 1996. And at that point, voice over IP started. We had a bunch of proprietary network protocols, like I did CobraNet. We had AES50, for instance, Gibson Magic. We had EtherSound. I'm going to skip over all that stuff. I'm just going to be talking about some of the components that ended up in AES67 and where they came from. I'm happy that we're now into the new millennium with 2002. This is when the IEEE standardized the precision time protocol, and that's used for accurately synchronizing the digital audio between multiple devices on the network. It's a critical component for real-time digital audio networking. When you're doing a telephone call, it doesn't need to be quite as real-time because you're just talking, two people are talking to each other. We don't have a bunch of speakers in the room that have to synchronize with one another. But this is an important technology. It was made for the industrial control market to synchronize, for instance, robots when they're working on a production line to keep them from crashing into each other. But that was available in 2002. And so when we started having these pieces available, we start to see people start using them. And so that started to happen with Telos developing their LiveWire. Like I said, there was some audio protocols before this, but this was one of the first ones to use IP, and that was technology that we standardized on with AES67. So Wheatstone is a competitor to Telos, and they came up with their kind of version of that. And also in 2005, we started to see some people trying to do video technology over the IP networks. And so there's actually RFC 4175, again, something that seemed to be impractical at the time. Was just, it's a standard for telling you how to put each pixel of a television screen into network packets. And I don't remember exactly who did this, someone from IBM or somebody. It's an idea that was before its time, but you're allowed to publish stuff that doesn't work or is impractical at any time you wish. Okay, so more commercial developments. We had in 2006, that's when we first saw Dante from Audinate. And in 2007, we have first interoperability standard for IP networking. And this is from the EBU, and it's It's not really a real-time protocol, but it's used for reporters in the field to be able to have conduct interviews over the internet, for instance. It was required because the way they had been doing that using the telecom system, ISDN, for instance, or principally, that was being decommissioned. Everything's switching over to IP now in the early or the mid 2000s. 2008, we had an update to the synchronization standard 1588. And at that time, we also had QLAN. QLAN was one of the first, it's from QSC for their QSYS system, one of the first audio over IP systems to use the new PTP standard. Do I have Ravenna? Yeah, I do, I think later on. Okay, the other thing that happened at an AES show here in October of 2009, I said to Mark Young, who was the AES Standards Secretariat, we had a discussion. I said, wouldn't it be a good idea if we had a standard for doing this audio over IP stuff? There's now we've seen QLAN, we've seen Livewire, we've seen Dante. They're all using the same technology pieces, of which I have gone through the 1588 for synchronization, RTP for transport, mostly Ethernet for the networking. So I submitted this project, what do we call that? Project initiation form. And Mark gave us a number. He gives numbers, the AES Standards Committee gives numbers when you want to start a project. So this one was X92, and I Googled X92, and I got a bunch of porn sites, so we opened up, I went ahead and bought one of those. I don't know why you got porn sites when you do X92. It had something to do with like the dimension of the picture or something. So the project was started, but I didn't really have a plan for how we were gonna get the work done. That would come a little later. In the meantime, I was working with the IEEE. They had the whole AVB initiative started up there. Again, using the same sort of pieces. They're getting a little bit more into the nuts and bolts of Ethernet with it, as IEEE is the standards organization that does the how Ethernet works. So all of the wired Ethernet standards are the responsibility of IEEE. They also do the wireless, the Wi-Fi stuff. Doing it at Ethernet, a lot of older technologies, including CobraNet and AES50, Gibson Magic, EtherSound, they did stuff at the Ethernet layer, just working with Ethernet, and this is what is going on with AVB here. But I thought for an interoperability standard, IP is used for talking to, for interoperability. I mean, that's what the internet is used for. It's very good for connecting different types of networking equipment together. So I was focused on using that for the audio piece of it. AVB was focused on using Ethernet. But I was helpful. I attended a lot of those meetings. We worked on the standards together. We all learned a bunch of stuff that would help with the AES work. So as the other part of developing AES67, other than I had known from doing CobraNet that if you have a great idea, a good idea, or a great idea even, it is not successful on its own. You have to go out and network with people. Network not in the data sense, but in the human sense. And you have to get people excited about the project. And in my case, I was an independent consultant at this time. I had to have an income. And so I met with Steve Church. Went on a nice chilly day in Cleveland and met with Steve Church, and We talked about it. Greg, you were there too, and we spent a day talking about it. And Steve liked the idea, and Telos uh, became one of the supporters of AES67 effort, and the other was QSC. And what that meant was me as a independent consultant, I could bring together research and bring together all the technologies and try and figure out how the pieces could fit together. We did this all on a wiki because I tend to think well while I'm writing as opposed to thinking well while I'm talking. I guess I could do both. I don't know. Writing's good. Um, and so we put together this wiki. So we're really starting on the project in 2011, and anybody who's done their math will realize we finished in 2013. That's when it was published. That was 10 years ago. So a standards effort was completed in 2 years, which was actually quite speedy for those sorts of things. And I thank Telos and QSC for allowing me to spend pretty much full time on it during those couple of years. So the next things that are happening as we're developing AES67, Ravenna is released in 2012. Is that the correct date there? 2010. Oh, I got him. Okay. Got that wrong. All right. Other things that happened in 2012. So we're seeing more video stuff. SMPTE 2022-6 is a method for sending professional video over IP networks. Now it doesn't use the method that I showed earlier, the RFC 4175. What this is doing is it's taking all of the bits, all the data that you have in a SDI, which is serial digital interface. That's the digital video format that's still exists today. And you just put it into network packets. You put all that data into network packets. It describes how to do that. That's going to be a piece of 2110, which you'll see a little later. Okay, so here we are, 2013, and this is when we publish AES67. We had a task group. They're called the X192 task group. There's a few of us out here that helped with that. I think the task group was close to 100. There were 100 people signed up to it. We had a group of probably a dozen that were active in the development. We had in-person meetings. We had teleconferences that happened once a week. There was a lot of meetings that I had in the middle of the night. We coordinated with SMPTE, coordinated with IEEE, coordinated with the timing group in IEEE. But anyways, we had the standard published in September, and we had an AES show in September. 18th of September is what I have done. We had a celebration down here on the dock, just a block away. And so that was our first celebration. All right, so like I said, if you have a good idea, it's not necessarily going to be successful unless you put some networking and effort into it. And so these next years are spent doing that. So, and work that's still finishing up. So one piece of AES67 was this RFC. So there's coordination with the Internet Engineering Task Force as well. That work is finally published in 2014. This one I co-wrote with Aidan Williams, who's the CEO of Audinate. And this describes how you use an RTP that was used for voice over IP telephone, how you do it in a more accurate way using the time synchronization protocol. So kind of a key linchpin to hold it together. It didn't exist, and Aidan and I created it. We created the Media Networking Alliance at that time. I think I ran around to all of you guys and came up with this and tried to sell you guys on this idea. We brought Tina in. Tina was doing the the trade association for 1394, which is a related network technology. And she was able to get the Media Networking Alliance set up for us. And then we started having plug fests. We had 3 in total. This first one in 2014 was in Munich, Germany at IRT. Now, I don't think IRT exists anymore, but it's kind of sad. But they were excellent hosts for our first plug fest. So during the development of AES67, I had been working with SMPTE, I'd been working with the IEEE, IETF. SMPTE was working on their synchronization standards, so they wanted to be able to synchronize video equipment over the network. So the 2059 standard, they had been working on this for approximately 10 years. It had been a project in SMPTE, and I like to think that us coming in, we had a few members from the X192 task group attending SMPTE meetings trying to push this together. We wanted to have a common synchronization standard for audio and video. Didn't want to go our separate ways on it. And so we did end up publishing 2 different standards. AES67 has a piece about synchronization, and the SMPTE 2059 standard describes how to do it, but they do it in a compatible manner, and you'll see how that works a little later on. That was a success of collaborating on stuff rather than working just in a silo, not paying attention to other things. We did an update to AES67 in 2015, another plug fest, and then at that point, 2015 is a big year. This is the first slide of 3. Also in 2015, the video work started in earnest. So this was done in the, what's it called, the SVC? Yeah, video start VSF, SVC, okay, VSS. And yeah, so I brought in, I participated in these conference calls where they were developing these technical recommendations, and what these do is tell you how to use the same sort of system as we use for AES67, but do it with video. So it's basically solving the same kind of problem for a different kind of data. And these were technical recommendations were published in November. And so we're starting to see SMPTE 2110, the seeds for that. And before 2110 was even published, Tina again was involved in forming AIMS, the, what's that stand for? Media, it says right there, doesn't it? Alliance for Media Solutions. Okay, great. All right, and I promised we would have a compatible synchronization system for AES67 and for the video with 2110, and I believed we had achieved it, but John Fletcher helped us out. John Fletcher's with the BBC, and he helped us out writing this report to describe exactly how you make those 2 synchronization systems work together. So this is an important piece of glue between the audio and video. All right, where are we up to? 2016. Getting close here, right? And if I finish early, do we get to have beer early? Okay, so we'll keep going. All right, so 2017, we have another Plug Fest, and we have the publication of 2110 in November of 2017. So since these 2 technologies are similar and work well together, we have a merging of the Media Networking Alliance for the audio of AES67. We started for AES67 into the AIMS group. It turns out that the video people over there have a lot more money than the audio people, and so that's the way the merger went. And Then another revision to AES67 we're working on. So that would be our second revision to AES67, and that's the current version that we have out there right now, is the 2018 version. As we go along in these things, we've done less and less changes. We've tried to keep the standards stable. We want to fix things, we want to clarify things, but we don't want to fundamentally change things. We're working on a new version now that does have some extensive changes in it. The changes are designed to more harmonize with how people are actually using video with the 2110 standard. So get these things, more in line with each other to make sure that they can easily work together. 2019 was a big year. That's COVID began that year, but also they gave us all an Emmy for the work that we did on the standard. So you've got, these are the main participants in a lot of the work that we did. We were awarded an Emmy. We were denied the opportunity to go to Las Vegas and receive the Emmy, which was sad, but we had a little televised program. And we have statues, right? Got statues on our desks, so that's awesome. And so since then, we've been working on updates to the standard. I've been actually just out there using this stuff. So I don't have anything more to do except to celebrate the 10 years that we've had this standard going. So thanks a lot for everybody.